Well, hello again, everybody. Hope everyone is having a great first post-NBA trade deadline week. The NBA rosters are largely set. We'll probably see some nibbling around the fringes of these rosters over the next couple of weeks as teams explore the buyout market, but these are the rosters that are set for the stretch run of the NBA season. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the NBA's favorite subject, tanking. It's actually the NBA's least favorite subject, a subject they wish they never had to talk about ever again, but it is being talked about right now. And yes, the calendar, it does read mid-February. This is not an early April conversation about tanking. This is a mid-February, pre-All-Star break conversation about tanking. That is because there is roughly a third of the league, about 8 teams right now, that have shown no interest in winning and are not expected to show any interest in winning over the next couple of months. And this problem has been exacerbated by some egregious performances by the Utah Jazz. If you have followed the Utah Jazz over the last few days, and I know many of you are Jazz fans out there watching them regularly, but the Jazz played in Orlando on Saturday. They had a 7-point lead at the end of the third quarter. They had a 17-point lead before the fourth. And the Jazz decided to sit on that 7-point lead by playing all of its bench guys. It sat out its 4 of its starters, most notably Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Keyonte George, and wound up losing the game by 3. Fast forward to Monday. Utah once again has a lead over Miami in the fourth quarter. Once again, the Jazz do not play their stars. This time it was Markkanen, it was Jackson, it was Jusuf Nurkic. Keyonte George wasn't playing in the game anyway, and they sat out their best players. Now, the bench guys wound up spoiling the best laid plans. Kyle Filipowski had 8 points. Bryce Sensabaugh had 8 points. They beat the Heat. They won the game. But it wasn't for a lack of trying to lose it. And this has absolutely gotten the attention of the NBA, which I've been told is at the highest levels are very frustrated by what they're seeing from some of these teams right now. And that has a lot of teams out there that are screaming for solutions, that are screaming for Adam Silver to do something about this. Now, it is kind of a perfect storm for a few teams. You've got 2 teams in Washington and Utah that have top 8 protected picks, which means if their picks do not land in the top 8, those picks go to the Knicks and Thunder, respectively. You've also got Indiana, which has control of its pick if it winds up in 1 through 4 or 10 through 30. So anything in 5 to 9, they lose control. So they're trying to be really bad as fast as possible as well. But you have other teams out there, Dallas, Milwaukee, Sacramento. These are teams that have not shown any interest in winning in recent weeks, and I don't believe will show any interest in winning in the official second half of the season. So what does the NBA do about it? Well, the NBA in the past has dropped the financial hammer on some of these teams. You remember back in 2023, they fined the Dallas Mavericks $750,000 for intentionally losing a game at the end of their season. Just last year, they fined the Utah Jazz $100,000 for not playing Lauri Markkanen down the stretch. Those in today's NBA, where owners are worth billions of dollars, those penalties don't really amount to much. Owners are not going to be afraid of losing some money if they believe and their front office believes that this is the best pathway to getting long-term success. And look, I can see how these teams believe that. Losing, it does work in the NBA. If you look at Oklahoma City, a few years ago, they were a 25 or fewer win team for a couple of seasons. Detroit, before the 44 wins from last year, they had sub 500 seasons for, I think, 6 straight years before that. It's a pathway to success. You lose for a couple of years, maybe a few years, and then you build up. San Antonio is another great example. A bunch of years where they weren't very good until they got Victor Wembanyama and this fleet of young guards on their roster, and now they're one of the best teams in the NBA. So losing does work. But the NBA simply cannot allow nearly a third of the league to be part of the race to the bottom with about a third of the schedule left over. So what does the NBA do here? Something that teams have been calling for is for the NBA to threaten, at least, to mess with the lottery odds. In other words, if they believe a team is tanking, and let's use Utah as an example because Utah is absolutely tanking, but if they believe a team is tanking, they can slap them with a fine. And with that fine comes a warning that if we believe you're doing it again, when the season ends and your lottery odds are X%, we're going to dock you a few combinations. We're going to say we're going to reduce your odds from the 14% down to 12 or 11%. That's something a lot of teams believe could work. Nobody wants to see their lottery odds diminished. That's something that teams believe could be effective in deterring this kind of race to the bottom. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think Adam Silver is going to have something to say about this. He'll have to have something to say about it over All-Star Weekend when he's asked about it by the media. But that's something to keep in mind. Long-term, there's potentially an even bigger issue. The NBA in the last 5 years or so has done everything it possibly can to put a Band-Aid on these bullet holes. It has done things to incentivize winning. It's created the play-in tournament. It has flattened the lottery odds for the bottom 4 teams. It has done everything within the current structure to avoid situations just like this, but it hasn't worked. And all these suggestions that are out there right now, whether it's not allowing a team to draft in the top 4 for consecutive years, locking in the lottery positioning after March 1st, taking away or limiting pick protections, which are influential in a lot of trades, none of it's going to work. This system is broken. This system needs to be nuked. This system needs to be deleted from the NBA's hard drives and never used again. The NBA and its teams need to go back to the drawing board. The NBA and its teams need to create a new system, a new structure that permanently and fundamentally disincentivizes tanking. Because everything they've tried, every time they've tried to patch something, do a quick fix on something, it maybe has worked for 1 or 2 years, then teams decide, hey, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing in this particular situation. And right now, have to say it again, nearly a third of the league is not motivated to win games with more than 2 months remaining on the calendar. That's a huge number and a huge amount of games that are left over. So this is something the NBA is going to have to fundamentally address in the offseason. They can't keep trying to patch this thing over, make these quick fixes. This system needs to be thrown out and needs to be replaced by something else, something that will stop what is becoming not just a problem for the NBA, but an epidemic for the NBA.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.